Good morning, Adelaide, and indeed the world. My name is Con, and I am the Conversationalist. And as per usual, I'm coming to you from the salubrious studios here at downtown Clarence Gardens in South Australia, where it's still very, very gloomy. My drink of choice, as always, is my latte. And I've noticed my guest this morning, Renee, also has her cuppa, but I did see the little tea bag string hanging out of there, Renee. Renee Catt is a relationship and trauma specialist. After going through her own high conflict divorce in 2012, Renee was inspired to go on and help others. Renee subsequently has a diploma in coaching and leadership, a master practitioner in neuro-linguistic programming, timeline therapy and hypnotherapy. Renee has also become a nationally accredited mediator and gone on to study family law to help families do divorce differently, which I'm really interested to talk about later. As a result of a chance meeting on a plane 2 years ago, Renee has subsequently ventured into the realm of trauma therapy, work that sees her helping people from all over the world. Renee's featured in mainstream media, including The Today Show, ABC, Women's Weekly, just to mention a few. Good morning, Renee. How are you?
Good morning, Con. Thank you for that epic introduction. And it's kind of gloomy over here too in Melbourne. So yeah.
You guys are famous for gloomy though. You guys are always cold and miserable there, aren't you? So I'm told.
Yes.
Right?
Well, yeah, 4 seasons in one day. It'll be sunny later and it'll be a stunning day. So anything's possible.
Indeed. Renee, I want to give some context into our conversation. Would you just go back a little bit and maybe just give us a little bit of information? Because in your intro, we did say yours was a high conflict divorce. Give us a little bit of a picture.
Yeah, so pretty much 8 years ago and a bit to the day, my marriage ended and I was a mess. I was full of anxiety and depression, and it just, for some reason, escalated into this high conflict that pretty much has gone on for the last 7 years, and it's on and off throughout that period. You know, in and out of court, and I think after I'd done a bit of work in the mediation space. Like I never thought I'd get into that, but that's when I heard about the effects of high conflict divorce and what it does to children. And that's when I thought families need to know how to do this differently. And I guess, you know, our own life experience sometimes can help shed the light for other people. But it's had its challenges, that's for sure. And through that, thankfully, I've built up a pretty good resilience, and I get to share some of that message with the people that I work with and who come out and get in touch with me about a separation and divorce. So because it's not a topic that people like to talk about a lot. It's been something that, you know, how when we met, talking in the media, as you said, a fair bit on and off for the last sort of 7 years about my divorce and how you can actually come through it on the other side. And I like to say bounce forward from it and find the opportunity in it. But yeah, the conflict side of it is, it's hard.
And I mean, statistically, doing a little bit of reading, 1 in 3 marriages end in divorce. So it's fair to say that divorce and not only divorces, but obviously living together nowadays is quite common. And so there's those breakdown in relationships as well, which I guess might not appear from a statistical perspective. So with that, there's obviously divorce and separation is a bit like death and taxes. They're inevitable. And so people will be faced with those challenges.
Yes, they will. And what a lot of people are unaware of is that second marriages, the divorce rate's like 67%. So
wow.
typically first marriages, it's, yeah, as you said, 1 in 3, varies between that, I suppose, and about 48%. So it fluctuates depending on whatever is going on
Mm,
out in the world.
mm,
Um, and specifically, through this lockdown period, there's a lot of pressure on couples, and whether you're married or not, even if you're in a de facto relationship, the family law in most states here, obviously I'm talking Australia,
yeah, yeah.
you may as well, it's the same principles apply in the majority of cases as if you are married.
Mm,
Um, but yeah, the second one was when I found out about that statistic, was eye-opening, that it was even higher, which goes to show that a lot of people go from one marriage without the learnings and the
mm,
lessons to
mm,
the next.
mm. Which is exactly what I was going to say. I mean, I had no idea of that figure,
Mm,
and I'm sure that will be quite eye-opening to the viewers and the listeners. But you're right. It's a lot of the times it's almost um, bounce from one to the other without really looking and going, okay, why did this happen? Was it
mm.
was it me? Was it him? Was it her? Like, and really, and I guess people aren't really good at taking responsibility in what goes on, are they?
No, like the first thing you hear so I know we've spoken about my journey, it sort of started from divorce and then ended up saving marriages. So, and like the divorce, they're helping them separate, the saving, the healing, it's a bit of a mixture, but so many people haven't got the learnings
Mm,
from a relationship or an experience. When couples sit down in front of me, it's this blame game.
yeah.
He's done this, she's done that, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting to see and it's normal and natural for us to be
Mm,
defensive and
yep.
go down that, when the majority of people haven't done or open to the personal development world as deep as what I've done over the last sort
Mm,
of 15 to
mm,
20
mm.
years, or a lot of I mean, that's what the statistics are. So it's it's been an interesting journey, that's for
I bet it
sure.
has. I bet it has. One of the things that I didn't read out in your introduction, but I took note of when you did go through your divorce, you had 2 young kids, both under the age of 4.
Mm,
Now, speaking from my own experience, and I know other uh, people that I've spoken to, they've stayed together for the kids.
mm.
They've stayed in this marriage. You know, the question you ask, why did you stay with that person for as long as you did? I stayed there for the kids. You didn't. Now, is that something that is common in the work that you do? And what was your perspective of that? Was that not something that you contemplated or played a role in your decision process?
I I stayed far too longer than I should have.
Mm,
Um, and that little intuition, that little voice inside, that, that cost, not listening to that cost me a lot, because here's something else I hadn't shared. I got into a relationship with someone about 10 weeks after my marriage ended, and I'd known him for 15 years. That actually cost me $100,000. um, because I didn't listen to my lawyer, but I jumped and I was just like, oh, I trust, but there was just something I knew
mm,
inside that maybe this wasn't a great idea.
oh dear.
Anyway, it's, I think a mother's reaction is, I feel that it's, yeah, for the kids, we'll stay a little bit longer, surely we can work through it, or I know, but fine, we can do it. But what people actually show their children is, because children are quite intuitive
Yes.
anyway, and they'll pick up on a vibe. And when then, if they find out, oh, you're separated, divorced once they got to high school, because that's quite common as well. I think I've found it from the people and the kids I've spoken to over the years, that it's sometimes even harder for teenagers to deal with it. And then when they hear or think, we stayed for you guys, well, the teenagers are like, why didn't you leave and get yourself happy? Because what have
Yeah.
you taught them by staying longer, because kids don't learn from what we say, they learn from what they see and what we do, right? So you're teaching them in a way bad habits of, one, staying too long because, so you're putting up with stuff that you really shouldn't. And what if, there's other things going on rather than just people not getting along and growing apart, that we take on a lot of stuff too in our subconscious mind around what relationships mean and all that kind of stuff, or the belief we should stay until, and put up with being unhappy.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, hindsight's a wonderful thing, but it just defies logic why we, and I include myself in this certainly, why we stay as long as we do. Renee,
Fear.
again, fear, yeah, indeed. In the intro, you said about doing divorce differently. What do you mean by doing divorce differently?
I mean, by doing divorce differently, most people they'll rush off to a lawyer, or they'll hate each other and they'll just want to hurt or get back at the other person. They speak to the wrong people about their problems. And what I mean by that are, and this is going to sound harsh to start with, but bear with me, but they'll talk to, family or friends who have been through a divorce thinking that they know best. But what happens is your family and your friends, they are emotionally invested in you. They can't be neutral. They want to protect and they want to do it for the right reasons. But sometimes your family's and friends' influence can actually muck things up. Whereas if people stayed out of it and let the couple figure it out, especially when there's children, and let sort of the dust settle a bit. Like for me and a lot of other women I've worked with and men, that, I think it was 4 days after it was officially over, I got papers to talk about the settlement of the house. And I'm like, 4 days? Like, really? Do I not get a breather at all to just try and get my emotions together? And so when people's emotions are high, highly stressed, either anxious or depressed, which is what I was at the time, your brain doesn't even function properly. So what happens is part of the brain shuts down, can't store information as a memory anyway. So any advice you get kind of does go in one ear and out the other. When you're angry, when you're hurting, when you're hating people, feel like revenge, all those emotions, sad, feel guilty and shame, you're going to make your decisions and you're based on that emotional state where you are. And often that is, I'm afraid, I need to hold on, I'm not going to cope, I'm going to get him back, I've got to take the money, the kids, all this yuckiness, when if we just took a breath, took time to pause, took care of that emotional stuff, got back to a state of semi-feeling a bit more grounded, a bit more calm and peace, you're going to get a massive different result. And specifically when you've got kids, like this is what you should do for the kids. Don't stay unhappy for kids, but do your divorce differently for your kids. Because the research shows us when there's a high conflict divorce, your children or child have a 17% more chance of having an emotional or mental health issue later on.
Wow.
When I was studying family law in the mediation course, when I heard that statistic, I just burst out crying, going, oh my God, I wish we had an opportunity or could have done things differently, knowing that. And it might not show up now, but later on when your kids are at high school or years later, who knows? So that's what I mean by doing divorce differently. And if I'll share another story about one of my other couples, I did some work with him to sort out his emotions. And this is a beautiful story. And I think late last year, he sent me a message on Facebook and said, oh, how, he was using music for a bit of therapy. And I'm like, yeah. He goes, well, the band and I got together and I've written a song and it's called Let Go. I couldn't have written it without working with you. Tears. I'm like, oh my God. So I then went and saw him play in the band. I promised him whenever he performed, I'd be there to see because I was so proud of him.
Mm.
And there he is with his former wife in the audience too, supporting him on,
Wow.
her new partner and his new girlfriend. And I was just like, wow, what an example of, doing it differently.
That's very different from certainly some of the examples that I've seen. That's an unbelievable story.
Yeah, that's why I love sharing it. And I know he's okay with
Yeah,
me sharing it too, because I've
yeah,
asked and I've posted it before, but
sure.
it just makes, to see that and witness it, it was just, that lights me up.
Mm. Yeah, look, and the reality is that for whatever reason, relationships run their course, and certainly, uh, again, from my experience, relationships end badly because they should never have started. And what you talk about, or what you spoke about earlier, about like your gut and instinct and knowing something is right or wrong, and it's like no, it's like you're trying to convince your instinct that you know better, and nothing could be further from the truth. Phenomenal.
Ah,
um
yeah, and we'll all sit there and go, yep.
yep. Once again, hindsight's a wonderful thing, Renee, isn't it?
Okay. Where's our time machine to go back, hey?
Indeed. Again, in the intro that you sent me, you talked about a chance meeting which led you onto another path to now work in the area of trauma therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really intrigued to talk about part of that after this. But obviously, I have to know, and again, for context for the viewers, chance meeting, and indeed it was on a plane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tell me the story.
So I was in Singapore and I'd been working for Tony Robbins and flying back, and my partner and I at the time were trying to get points to upgrade to business class, and being an ex-travel agent, which was the hat I wore in my career before I did this, I knew that there was availability because I'd messaged a girlfriend going, "What's the seats like?" She said, "They're fine. You should be fine." Anyway, we didn't get the upgrade, and I remember saying at the time, and I just knew, I said, "There's somebody on this plane I need to meet." I said that, I just know it.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I get up, have a stretch. I might have had like a little wine or something. And I mean, I'll talk to anyone at the best of times. And in front of me, and sitting next to my boyfriend was this guy, and we got chatting, what do you do, blah, blah. Oh my God, okay, I want to hear about this hypnotherapy, this trauma therapy you do. Catch up a couple of months later, and he gives me the experience of it. So, because I thought I'll just refer some clients to you, because I had no idea about that. Sounded interesting, and that was the chance meeting, and it was just I was like, wow, this is felt like the missing piece to my business of what I was looking for to help people with. And it's been game changing for people's mental and emotional state. So the results that my clients get now are like life changing. And so once I'd experienced, I then went to learn this particular trauma therapy, and that's what inspired me to go down more of a therapy path, and to help people, because it was fast. People were getting results faster than anything I'd seen. So yeah, what's not to love about that?
Well, indeed, and again, I just want to, from the information that I've read. So, most of your clients are execs who they've had stressful events in their past. They haven't healed, and there's a lot of anxiety and depression. Yeah, and you went on to say that they lead busy lives and they don't have time to be stuck in therapy, so they're looking for a solution.
Yeah.
So I'm intrigued as somebody, and again, open book here. I got more hang-ups than a 27-foot wardrobe. like what sort of results are we talking about, Renee? Are we talking, are we talking one session? Are we talking five? Are we talking like just give me a couple of little stories.
So typically, for this particular modality that I use, I work with people over 5 sessions.
Mm-hmm.
And within one of them is a lot about education of how your brain works and why things are like they are.
Yep.
And so we look at someone's pattern, because once we can see someone's pattern in their life, like what are the significant emotional events that have caused, or high stress, whatever it was, whatever it caused you, because our minds are meaning-making machines.
Yes.
So, for example, a breakup. You could take on the meaning that you're not good enough. There's fear, there's rejection. What's the point? Or people will hurt me or abandon me. So if you have a lot of bad relationships, and specifically where there's been abusive ones as well, you take on pretty bad meanings about how people are going to treat you. So when we can see the pattern and figure out from that pattern what's the belief that person took on about themselves and other people, that's where we can create massive change and transform their lives, because it brings someone back to the truth of who they really are. And it just shifts them from getting out of that state that they're in to where they want to be. And so typically a guy who I was working with, finished up with him in February. And I did a bit of looked over my notes, and I think it was on about the 3rd session. He'd said, I was after the 3rd session. I don't know who I am without anxiety and depression, because I've had it for 9 years, and now it's just gone. And so, I was just like speechless to hear him saying that, which is a good thing. So then we teach him how to get comfortable with that, because sometimes that to go from one state to another when they didn't think it was possible, because 9 years is a pretty good chunk of time. And I checked in on him just the other day, and he goes, I've had ups and downs, because obviously everyone at the moment with the COVID, the lockdown, there's been some challenge. Like
Everyone's been impacted in some way, shape or form.
Some way, shape or form. So for him to have not gone back to that state beforehand is epic, because I hadn't seen him or spoken to him for 4 months. He goes, no, had challenges, but it's all still gone. So, gracious, and that was after 4 sessions. And people don't have time these days to be stuck in therapy talking about what happened. Now, some people it's fine, because everyone's different.
Sure.
And you've got to, sometimes that's okay. Things still come up. Like I'll put my hand up too and say, I have therapy every now and then, because I'm human. And I'd rather do that than not.
Do you know, one of the things, and I've got a rough idea of what your view is going to be, but I really want you to verbalize it for me. One of the biggest challenges that I see is where, whether it's anxiety, whether it's depression, whether it's whatever the issue may be, that they're hanging on to it because it's actually being reinforced by other people that they're there. It's okay. It's okay. Pat, 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 pat. Where sometimes yours truly doesn't, I don't want people, I don't want sympathy. I don't want people to justify, my challenge or my behavior. I want somebody to call me out on it and really go, dude, no. All right. So is that something that, with the people that you work with, that's probably one of the stumbling blocks for people to move forward?
Yeah. And why I'm laughing is because one of my clients in Queensland, he calls me the smiling assassin.
I like that.
And one of my other guys goes, come on, Renee, you're not good at beating around the bush, just say it how it is. And this is why I love working with a lot of men, because I can be quite direct, because you're right, there is no point. It's okay. I mean, sometimes you do need it. Look, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. But when people stay in that state, and sometimes it becomes a choice, because what then happens is people get what we call secondary gain by staying in a particular state. So I'm going to use an example here, like where there's companies, or if you're, say, pensioned out from your job and paid a particular amount of your wage for however many years, what's the benefit for you in getting well? Because some people go, well, if I stay like this, I get money, don't have to really work, life's okay. And they accept that standard. But everyone's journey is unique to them. So if that's what you want to go down, then fine. But a lot of people just don't know any different, because they've tried normal methods, I guess, of counseling, normal psychologists. You get your Medicare sessions and they're just happy to do it. But I say to people, like, are you ready for the consequences of working with me? Because you're actually going to get what you came here for. And you have to make sure that both parts, like the logical, the conscious part of someone's brain, is on track, as well as the subconscious part. Because some people, and this is a really bad swear word I'm going to use, but want to play the victim. Now, I am going to put a caveat on that. If there's been any sort of domestic violence, you have been a victim of their behavior. But again, staying in that state defined by that is not helpful. And but again, everyone's journey is unique to their own, and whatever they choose is theirs. But yeah, for someone who actually wants to feel better, live a different life, break free from all their stuff, then it's easier than what people think.
It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of the unknown, fear of what if, fear of, and again, this is speaking on behalf of a friend. Actually, I jokingly said to somebody the other day when I was doing one of my little interviews, I said, I've got more free consults out of this than anything else. Not my intention. But look, you're absolutely right, Renee, and certainly domestic violence situations, people have been victims of other people's behaviours, and it's awful.
Absolutely.
Thing. And sometimes it's, as we've seen with some really horrible stories in the media about murders and goodness knows what else. There's a legitimate fear of making that break. So that's definitely the victim. But you're right. I mean, I know people who they are professional victims, absolutely professional victims, and it's attention. So
attention, 100%.
They're getting attention for woe's me. I'm not feeling well. I haven't got any money, or whatever the case may be. Renee, you've obviously been doing this for some time now, and as you said, well, as I read, you're obviously working with people both nationally and internationally, and your ability to do this via Zoom or online type thing. How is it as impactful doing it that way as opposed to face to face?
Yes, and sometimes better.
Okay, that was very, very, very quick response. Why sometimes better?
Because you can imagine, like in this situation, like our voices are right here. So there's no worrying about personal space. And so I work with people's unconscious mind. So it's a really powerful form of hypnotherapy. And so when you're right here, you sort of can get it more in, like it's just there. rather than if it's in person, you know, you're sitting in the chair. So there's just that distance. So it's, sometimes I find it for some people too, that when they feel more comfortable or safe in their own environment, that it works better, because environment is everything.
Okay.
And it's really is everything. So if they're feeling safe in their own home environment, 'cause some of the people I work with don't want to go outside, they don't want to be social. And if they've got a fear of judgment, what am I thinking, and or what do other people think about them coming to a clinic as such to work with
Yeah.
somebody, you know, they're in their own home. No one needs to know.
Mm. Do you find people say to you, I'd like to do this, but I'm worried what my, you know, husband or family or friends will say? Is that something that comes up?
They don't say it, but I say it, because if they're in a relationship, I have to say the consequences of you doing this work could be that you want to actually leave.
Yeah, that's a bit of
Because
that's a bit of a sledgehammer in the head, isn't it? Really?
yeah, but there's, I can't lie because I'm so bad at it
Oh.
anyway. I've got honesty tattooed on my arm.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something else. Went arm.
No, but I have to tell people not fit right that could be a consequence of it. And when I work with couples and do this work, I say we have to be unattached from the outcome, because you've got to heal yourself first and then reunite the relationship to have it even better. And
What are the consequences? Well, sorry, not what are the consequences. They'd be obvious, but again, and I go back to, we'll call it traditional counselling or couple, no, not traditional, but couples counselling, where one partner is quite keen to you know, do the work and rebuild the relationship, and the other party is like, I don't know what the problem is, like, what's your issue? I'm not going to counselling. Wah 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 wah. What do you suggest to people there?
I always say to anybody that you've got the best advice for anybody ever is to stay true to themselves. And if you need to go and you want to go and it's going to be beneficial for you and your partner doesn't want to go, then it's your life. You have to get your stuff sorted and be happy with that, because otherwise you'll hold resentment to them anyway if you don't go. And the likelihood is, depending on who they're working with and what's going on, of course, but when one person changes in the relationship, inevitably the relationship dynamics will change anyway, for the better or it will end. It will either get better or it will just, you know,
it's going to change one way or the other.
But you can fix a marriage and a relationship by just one person doing the work. And my belief around that, again, it's just my opinion, is that if that's the case, it's meant to be. But it can be if
so there's an element. So there's an element in your belief that certain things are meant to be. An element of we'll call it not fatality, but like it's written, so to speak.
Yeah, I believe it was a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And when we think about the whole relationship aspect, we don't graduate from relationship university with a certificate that says, hey, I'm good to go, I'm marriage material, I've qualified for a relationship. Most people learn the hard way. And I've proved enough and been to enough seminars to see it, that happens. You learn your relationship will be the biggest personal development school of your life. And so these days it's inevitable that when marriage vows were created so many hundreds of years ago, right, we weren't living till we were 90 odd. We were living till we were 40, 50 if we were lucky. So the idea of having one relationship, the one, and all that, that sometimes it was arranged anyway.
Yeah.
The reality is you were going to be with them forever. But we've changed. So if we don't learn how to do relationships differently or ourselves first, and learn more about communications, what's really coming up onto the surface, and have honest conversations with our partners, the likelihood is that it's going to end. And I've seen it before where people think, oh, this wild, crazy chemistry. We're so connected. The butterflies, we stay up all night talking. He's the one, she's the one. It's amazing. It's all over Facebook. And then I just sit there and go, okay, that is just, we'll watch this space with love, with love.
Yeah, sure.
And I can see how often it comes undone, because that's, yeah, it's a different kind of attraction, that one. So it's understanding, well, what's attraction anyway? Why am I attracted to this person? And knowing that, and working with
it's definitely like that kind of relationship. It's it's all dopamine driven, isn't it? Like fixation and wow, and not really, as Dr. DeMartini says, about looking at both sides of the coin. They're just looking at the one, and of course that's where the issues potentially lie. So just before we go, what I want to ask you is, you mentioned communication before, and indeed being able to have an open and honest conversation with your partner, your loved one, your kids, whatever it is. It's sometimes very challenging because you're concerned about the way they're going to react. What's your advice to somebody that really wants to have a conversation with their loved one, but they're fearful of potential consequences? And when I say consequences, I don't want to go down the road of being beaten up and domestic violence, but consequences, other consequences. What would your advice to them be?
So I think the biggest thing that holds anyone back is fear and doubt. And we have this thing of, what are they going to think? So it's a fear of judgment. So like, no one has a fear of public speaking. It's a fear of judgment. And it's, what are they going to...
Thank you very much. I'm going to write that down. So tell me that again. Nobody has a fear of public speaking. What do they have a fear of?
It's a fear of judgment.
Fear of judgment. Okay.
And it's a lot of people too, when you're talking to your partner, it's, oh, you do this and you. But if we change it and go, well, I feel, because it's about you, they're your feelings anyway. I feel whatever the emotion is when you do this behavior. And it's learning to speak about you, I feel. And also, I know from when I was in the early days, and even through the relationship that I'm in at the moment, it's anytime I've had this fear of saying anything and speaking up, I'll sit with it and I go, what have I got to lose by doing this? And I know that anytime we've spoken about anything, it actually has brought us closer together. So, and I know I'll watch whenever I hold on to things longer than what I do, it just makes me feel worse.
Yeah.
But we speak about it and we just sit down, and from a place of, I'm just need to say it my way. My intention is pure and good. This is how I'm feeling.
Everybody's taking everything personally. That's really where it's
and
at.
It's all about you anyway. They're your feelings. So we need to be able to talk about our feelings.
Renee, we could talk about this for probably 2.5 hours, but we won't. I know you're a very, very busy lady. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I know you've brought some tremendous value to the viewers and to the listeners, and to anybody out there who resonates here. I strongly urge for you to get in touch with Renee, have a chat, and I know she does some absolutely amazing work, and life's too short. Life's too short to be in a crappy relationship. Yeah.
A crappy relationship and a crappy emotional state as well. Like just
it's not good all the way around. Renee, again, thank you very, very much. My name is Con. I am the Conversationalist. And until next time, bye for now.